Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is PixInsight workflow and revising the way that we interact with it. I'm going to do a call out to Sasha Weiss's video from a year and a half ago where he introduced everybody to utilizing a Loupedeck. He used the Loupedeck CT version, and that got me interested in it as well. I was also interested in a deck for multiple applications, not just for PixInsight. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be maybe an update to what you can do, a little more details of how to set the device up with your own icons, and how I use it to set up workflows. Use the Loupedeck Live version, which is a smaller deck. I don't think you need the CT version. This one's about half the cost, a little over $200. I'll also show you some tools to build the icons and how to set up the flow within PixInsight. The current version of PixInsight, and this has been for quite a while, the menuing system does not have shortcuts that you can assign to buttons directly. So there's a unique way that I figured out to do it, and it looks like Sasha Weiss used the same method. I looked up some of his buttons after I figured this out, and he figured the same thing out. This is for the Windows version, and so let's get into it, and I'll show you how to do some of this stuff. I have PixInsight on the left. I have the Loupedeck software loaded. So before we get into the details specifically on the Loupedeck, I'm going to walk through some options that you would have to consider. I'm currently using this version of the Loupedeck. You'll see the Loupedeck Live. They have an even smaller version of this that doesn't have the bottom buttons and as many of the hard buttons and not as many of the graphical buttons. But I feel like this is the good middle ground in terms of having enough screen space and physical buttons to toggle between the various things. It does have a stand. I have deployed this angled setup is the best way, in my opinion, to use it. Now, just to know, and I haven't used this or explored it, but Razer makes a deck. It's the same hardware, I believe, from what I can tell, and it runs the Loupedeck software. Now, this is probably $80 to $100 cheaper than buying the Loupedeck version. It does have this angled stand that I saw, so that might be an option. I haven't tried it though, so your mileage could vary versus Loupedeck directly. And then another option you might want to consider is the Elgato Stream Deck. Though they make some other versions, this is probably the comparable version. Most of the actions that I set up on the Loupedeck are on the buttons. So if you have a Stream Deck, you could, do a similar type of setup. It's also $250. The Razer is like $150, if I remember right. And I'm not going to get into where to buy it all. Y'all can figure that out. So that's some background on options. Now we're going to go back to the Loupedeck Live here. I have the software up with my current configuration. I'm getting ready to update my workflow on the Loupedeck. You can see I have screen set up here. And instead of setting up a linear button or a non-linear button like Sasha had, I just took the approach of everything goes through the workflow, starting in the linear space and then moving to the non-linear. So I just hit the buttons as I go through my workflow at the bottom and progress. And then I skip things I don't need based on the type of target I'm shooting. So you can see I've set up all of these buttons. Now, I'm not going to upload this to the marketplace or provide these buttons. And the reason why is I'm capturing graphics out of PixInsight and putting them into my buttons, and I don't want there to be any problem or dispute about me publishing their graphics online. But I will show you how to make these, and it's relatively simple. You can use your favorite photo editor. I'm going to use GIMP, the editor of choice for me. And we have PixInsight over here. So showing you how this works. The hardware buttons will interact at the same time the software is loaded, so you can test it as you're adjusting your buttons. You can edit a button. As soon as you hit save on that edit, it will become available on the Loupedeck hardware and you can hit it. So over here on PixInsight, I activated the window so it'll target it. I hit blink and you can see it loaded blink. Now the way I did that is by going to the Process Explorer, having the Loupedeck pull that up put blink in as the item that I want to load, and then sending the enter command twice, which will, if you click in here and type something, hit enter twice, it highlights it and loads it. So that's how I'm loading it. Now the benefit of loading things from the Process Explorer is you actually have access to not only the process menu, but also everything in the script. You actually have access to even more stuff. And I'll show you a couple other tips if you want to grab some special icons, information areas within a PixInsight. You can go grab like a good PixInsight icon that you see over here in the Loupedeck software. I didn't put that in there. That's Loupedeck picking that up. Starting off within your workspace, first thing you want to do is add an application. When you add an application, you will select from the list. I went and found PixInsight right here. Once I selected that, then it knows when you're in what's called dynamic mode. So the Loupedeck will switch the controls to whatever application you're actively using. If you're using Adobe and you have a set of Adobe shortcuts on your Loupedeck, it'll switch over to that whenever that screen's active. When you activate PixInsight, it'll switch back to the controls for. So that's dynamic mode. You can put it in non-dynamic mode, and there's a place to toggle that over here. You can actually add it as a button to your application areas within the deck itself. It's called dynamic mode on and off. So you could actually drag this onto a control somewhere or onto a button to toggle it. And when dynamic mode is off, then the Loupedeck will stay on whatever application it has active at the time that dynamic mode was turned off. For streamers, if I'm using OBS and I want to keep the OBS controls up even when I'm in a game or an application like PixInsight, and I want to be able to control my screen transformations and things like that, and I don't want it to bring up these controls, then I would turn off dynamic mode. If you put it into each of your screens, you could toggle it real time. That's a pretty nice feature. I'm going to show how to make an icon and how to make it function in PixInsight. For most things, you're not going to need the graphic editor. I have it here just to demonstrate that you could make your own special icons, graphics, and bring them in here. But for this demonstrations, I'm going to stay with the snipping tool. Here we are in the editor. If you wanted to set up an icon and an action, we'll use this one as an example, and we'll go through how I built blank, and then I'll show some of the other ones. Create a custom action, select multi-action macro, you rename it to what you want it to be. So this will be blank. We're going to add our first action, which is going to be a keyboard shortcut. And if you click this, you can pick, which we need Control, Alt, and the letter P. It toggled off Control, put P into the box, and then you want Control and Alt. Okay, that's the first step. That brings up the process window. So if I hit save on this, notice it updated with the generic text and everything, so it's still ugly over here. But if I go over here and over on the hardware side of it, I have that button is updated, so I'm going to click it. So it hasn't put blink in there. It opens up the process window. If I mouse off the process window, it goes away. So the next thing that we need is to add a delay. I've found that sometimes, depending on what your computer's doing, it could be too slow and not be ready for the next shortcut here when launching the Process Explorer. So I put a 500 millisecond delay here. All right, so the next thing we need when you open the Process Explorer is going to need to tab. I need to tab into the Process Explorer, and then you need to tab one more time to get into the Process Explorer field. We're going to add another keyboard shortcut. You got to pick the control keys from here. Can't just hit tab. All right, so that's going to get us into the window, and then we're going to type in whatever the search word needed to find the process or script or other function you're looking for. It doesn't have to be the entire word. It just has to be a subset of it. So this can get, you can get creative with this, and I'll show that later. But we're going to put in paste text, and we're going to put the word blink in because that's going to come back. You want to uniquely find the thing you're after. So when you build your buttons, you go search for the thing you want, make sure it limits down to just what you're after, which means you might have to tweak these if names change over time. It's not a huge deal. So that'll get us, let's just see what it does now. I'm just going to save this, go over to PixInsight. Now you have to have PixInsight active when you hit these buttons. If you came off of a window, like your web browsing or something, you came over and you hit the Loupedeck and it just happened to be in non-dynamic mode and you hit the button, it won't do anything unless the PixInsight window is active. So I'm clicking on my, left clicking on my background before I hit the button. I'm hitting the button. Notice it got all the way to inserting what we're looking for. The next thing we need is we need it to do 2 carriage returns, which will take our result and select it and run it. So I'm going to add those. Another keyboard shortcut. You can actually highlight the box. If you highlight the box and hit tab or return, you can do that. So hit return and then add one more. So my previous statement where you have to pick those functions from the menu, it's not true. You could also type them here. And Control and Alt, those you need to pick from the menu. One more shortcut here, hit return. I'm gonna hit save. Again, clicked on the background, hit it. Put blink in, and the double return ran the function as soon as it found it. But notice that process window stays out for a little bit. So typically my cursor is going to be sitting on the background somewhere. I'm going to hit the button. It's going to open blank, but I don't want to wait on the Process Explorer to go away. So if you click on the background, the Process Explorer goes away. So you kind of, when using this, you kind of get into the mode of your cursor sitting in a blank area of your PixInsight, like down below, you're hitting the button. How do we hide that quickly? Well, it's a mouse click. Click on the left, it goes away before the waiting for the full delay. Again, we got to make sure that the process window actually, you know, it had time to launch blink. So we're going to add another delay, another 500 millisecond delay. Next thing we got to add a mouse click function. It's up here. I want the left button. I just want to click it. It may default to double click or something else. You just want left click. I'm saving that. So mouse click is now in here. Now there's probably ways you can manipulate it to tell it to be at a certain coordinate and click. I'm not going to do that. So now I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to close blink. Now watch how the process window closes quickly after I select it. So I hit blink. It opens up blink, closes right away. I click the button, which also means my window stays active. So there's the functional part of it. So the next thing we need is like, okay, this icon right here is really ugly. So you go into the editor here. I'm going to switch to full screen here. So we go into here and edit this. It's got its text in the bottom. I don't like the white text. So first thing I do, just switch this to black text. Leave that as blank. Go into the icon. This is where you can put your own custom icon in that you made with your image editor. Before I do that, I like to take the background and switch it to white. Okay, there's my text at the bottom. I can actually take the text and make it bigger. Just gonna move it up a little bit. Make it bigger with the corner so that it keeps its scale. Put that there. Now for an icon, I'm going to save this for a second. So it's a little bit better. Got the word blink at the bottom, and if I hit save down at the bottom, you'll see it updated my entire icon. So these words at the bottom on this screen are not on the Loupedeck. And the Loupedeck itself only has what's on the button. So it's just showing me what the name of the function that I've assigned here, but the visual is what's inside of here. So you see how I got this, the Bill SCNR, Bill Blanchard's SCNR function. Great guy producing awesome stuff for us. So I don't like this text. We'll come back to the text, and we'll go load the image first. The way I load images is I get them straight out of PixInsight. So I use the snipping tool in Windows, go into the Process Explorer. Here's Blink right here. Now notice how you can see it pretty well. So I just go ahead and go down and hit New on the snipping tool, and I go grab that little bit of icon right there, and then hit save, and let's just call this like Link. I'm just gonna go to my downloads folder for now. Save this. This actually is showing the icon down there, just because I have this minimized. You can't see it. All right, so go back into here, browse. I'm gonna actually grab the one I saved before. There it is. But notice how I can move it now. There's a little grabber thing here, and it's a little finicky because you can't grab the upper left once you push it off screen. But if you want to make this bigger, push it kind of off screen, grab this. You can keep dragging off screen this way, right? And then I won't be able to get a hold of the handle again, so you have to like learn how to fiddle with this without getting too far. So I can go out here, make it bigger, put this in the middle where I want it. Take this text, which I saw needs to be bigger, pull it to the side here, make it bigger, get it the way you want. I originally scrunched that a little bit, so it's not quite right, but now I can get a nice big text. So you got to practice getting these roughly the same size that you're on your screen. They're gonna look good on your Loupedeck. You do 2 or 3 of them, you'll get it down. You'll learn that, like, get the icon to take 2/3 of the screen, and then get the text to take the bottom section. So if I hit save, now notice it updated. Now that little shadowy area at the bottom, it doesn't show up that way on the Loupedeck. It's completely white all the way around, so you don't have to worry about that looking like that. It's going to look good. So I hit save, and apparently the text didn't get saved separately from the image. Let's save again. Save. Alright, so what I've found on this version of Loupedeck, it used to be when I would resize this text, it would hold the position. It looks like there might be a bug here. If I save this, shows it really big here, and I hit save, it does not transfer to the button. And on my Loupedeck, it's really tiny text. It keeps defaulting back to 29 point. Way around this, because that's text is way too small on my screen, is to go build the icon we want. If I go into my image editor, we open the Blink icon. Zoom in on this, put my own text on here, bring Blink into here, take my original image, make it bigger, put it in here, not have the visual layer on, drop this down to something smaller, bring it down to like 25. I'm going to make it bold. We'll bring this in so it's manageable. So now I have the word up there. So we put Blink here, back to the background, and we will make that much larger. Okay, so you can get the idea. So this could be, once you get this set up, this template set up for an icon, now you can export this. You might have to test out the sizing a little bit. So when I export this out, downloads, and I want to make this the Link icon, save it as a PNG, export, go back to Loupedeck. Now if I go in to edit this, I can turn off the text over here and click browse for icon, go to my downloads, and I grab the Blink icon. Now I have a pretty solid Blink icon. I hit save this time, and I have to hit save again for the actual function. This time, notice how it's not text anymore. It's all graphic, so it can't mess with it. So even if you run into like Loupedeck, I have run into some bugs early on. I ran into bugs where a long time ago when I first got it, certain macro functions just didn't work right. They fixed them over time. It's pretty solid now. This font sizing issue is a new one for me. Because obviously I didn't have to do that before. I was able to change the size and it would save, as you can see on my other icons. So there is one function. So if I now go over to PixInsight and I hit my blink button I just created, works great, closes out. So that's how you make a button. If you want to get rid of something you built, you can just hit unassign. It clears the button out. Now let's look at what I laid out for the deck itself. So over on the first button, I have a blank subframe selector. And remember, these words underneath that are not on the screen. You're only going to see the graphic itself. So it's very clean. I make them, the words, short enough that they don't overlap. So I got all my icons from PixInsight for the most part. So some of the things I put a save as feature. So if I'm going along and I'm on a picture and I want to hit save as, same thing. All it is Control-Shift-S for that one. If I want to load a script instead of a process, something like WBPP, well, it's the same as loading a process. It just uses weighted batch pre-processing. I just had to go find what it was called in the Process Explorer. All of these are the same layout. So you can actually copy one of these into a button, make a copy of it, and then modify it. Modify your graphic, modify your keyword that's down here that you're looking for. Paste text, sorry. So you can modify that to be whatever you need the function to be, then modify your icon and load it, whether you're doing a full graphic icon or you're just going to go with the text, even if it's small right now, or eventually they'll fix that with the Loupedeck. So I lay out the order that I do things. I blink things, then I subframe select them, then I have my cosmetic correction default I like to set up. I don't have any shortcuts on my desktop. I do have a whole shortcut layout for PixInsight. I don't use it anymore because of this. So when this pops up, it brings up that cosmetic correction. I can drag off a shortcut, name it CC. I can probably automate that as well. WBPP is next. Drizzle might be next. If I don't automatically drizzle inside of WBPP, then I might drizzle, then crop, and so on. Gradient. Now, I made this a gradient icon off, I think, of the original gradient PixInsight gradient correction tool. So I changed the logic on this to be whatever tool. Like I'm just using automatic DBE, which I think is a SETI Astro tool, up until the latest gradient Mars version, Mars database version. So I haven't swapped that out yet. What I'll probably do is put multiple gradient tools in here. I'll probably keep automatic DBE, give it a different, like a SETI Astro icon of some sort. Keep this gradient in here, call it Pix Gradient, Pix Grad, something like that. And then, you got Blur Exterminator. I also like to keep certain functions down here, like auto stretch or reset the stretch, and then my save as. So you'll see as I click across here, the next page, button 1, and these only light up when your Loupedeck if they have something on them. The physical console will not light up unless there's something on the page. So then next is, maybe Noise Exterminator. Anything that would happen in the order, whether it's, a Galaxy process or a Nebula process, you kind of just like bake the whole workflow in. And then you just skip the ones you don't need. For some, I used the little gear icon because there wasn't an icon for it. I was too lazy to find one. Statistical stretch, that's another, I think a SETI Astro one. But then I kept these in common down here. Auto STF, reset STF, and save as. I keep on every page because I use them all the time. Or save as I use all the time. So now I'm at a page where I'm beyond stretching, so I don't have the stretch buttons on here. And then I keep moving through all the tools I might need. Next page here, there could be, I'm using LRGB multiple places on the workflow where you can have multiple buttons that do the same thing along the way. In some cases, you might be doing something other than running a PixInsight PixInsight module. So this one actually loads pixel math, but much like Sasha added on View into Space had star calculation. So if I open up pixel math and get onto the input screen, then here's where I input the default formula. So if I'm on that window, show this, I'm going to launch pixel math. And then here we are. I'm in this window here and I hit the add stars button. It's going to put it in there for me. So you can do other things like put, global execute could be a button on here. Here's some more that are pasting in. Like this is a calculation for doing the red channel for simulated stars. And then, I have crop over here again. If I'm done processing my photo, I might want to crop it at the end. I got curves in multiple places. You get the idea. Then further down, I have some miscellaneous. This is where I can go, even though the buttons are at the top of the screen, the words don't show up unless you mouse over it. Until you get used to them, you might not want to, deal with that. You can just have, make a new preview. You can disable and show masks. I got Bill's S&R tools in here, which this one is run command. So it actually goes and runs a location. I go all the way in, and when I run that, it's the same as double clicking it. And for his scripts, they automatically come into PixInsight, because since I'm in PixInsight, the icons will all load onto the desktop just by doing that. And then I also have it open up pixel math, because I know I'm going to need pixel math, and in his S&R script will be loaded in pixel math, and then the pixel math window will open up and it will be ready to use. And then this closes Process Explorer again. All right, so that's how I created the buttons, how you can get really nice looking icons that match up with PixInsight graphics. I mentioned earlier in the video, there's some other places to get icons inside of PixInsight. Say you wanted to have an icon on your Loupedeck somewhere else before you're in PixInsight to launch PixInsight, and you wanted to put that icon on it. You could get it from here inside a Loupedeck. You could do a snipping tool cut of that. You can also go into Process Explorer, look for icons, and you'll see this Core Icons browser. The Core Icon browser gives you a nice big clean PixInsight icon right there, which is cool. You can find icons like that too. So you could even run a process container and automate more stuff overall. So I usually mainly for my high level workflow. I also use it for my YouTube workflow for OBS sometimes, and I'm planning on using it for some other applications. So you can see over here, I've played around Shotcut. It's my video editor. It's a free video editor. Highly recommended if you're just getting into video editing. And right here is where that dynamic mode that I was talking about is. You can turn on and off. And I have it assigned to buttons on my Loupedeck that I can do it without even coming in here. That is a wrap. I hope you find this helpful. I want to give another shout out to Sasha Weiss and his channel for the original Loupedeck idea, and also thank you to him for all these other videos. I've found his channel to be a great resource for my own learning. To all my subscribers, thank you for watching. Anybody who's new, please subscribe if you find my videos helpful, and I hope everybody has clear skies. Until next time, take care.